Hi, everyone, and welcome to the How to Love Your Partner interview series, where we are talking about mastering the messiness of couplehood. I'm your host, Robyn D'Angelo, and throughout this entire interview series, I'm bringing together love, relationship experts from all over to give you tips, tools, strategies, and the support that you need to learn to love your partner just a little bit more. And today's guest is Gabrielly. He's known as the Marriage Boss, and he's also the author of Uncovering the Hidden Currency of Marriage: How Smart Entrepreneurial Husbands Build Marriage, Family, and Business That Matters. So we are super excited to have Rick here with us today. He's going to be talking about how to love your misunderstood man. And I'm so excited for this because I know that there's so many people that are just excited to hear from you today. And Rick, why don't you just share a little bit about yourself and how you came to support couples and individuals in, creating wonderful relationships?
Well, first I want to say thank you, Robyn, for having me and putting together such a great program of amazing experts and people who just care so much about love and relationships. So thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
I guess I was a misunderstood man at one point in my life, for most of my life. And I asked my wife about 5 years ago. I was getting into individual coaching, leaving health and fitness. And I said, what am I good at? And she said, well, you're good at communicating in a marriage. And so a light bulb went off at that moment, and the Marriage Boss was born. I figured if I was having problems communicating, even though she said I was good, she was being kind. I really had a lot of challenges, mostly around communicating money, because I'm a spender and a risk taker, and she's a saver and very conservative. And I'm an entrepreneur, and she was a banker by trade. So we were from different worlds, and no matter how we tried, we really always had challenges communicating about money, and then certainly parenting, marriage, family, all the other things that we struggle with. So I figured if I was having these issues, I bet you a lot of other men were, and certainly couples were. And since doing this work, I found out I was right.
Yeah, I bet. Well, and I just want to say the fact that you could go to your wife and say, what am I good at? I mean, that right there, as a therapist, I'm like, that's a pretty great skill to have, to be able to even go and say, hey, I need some feedback from you. So kudos to you on that one.
Thank you. And the reason I went to her is because she's the most skeptical person I know. She doesn't believe anything unless she sees it herself. And so I'm the kind who just jumps first and thinks later. And she's always analyzing and just so conservative. I just married a woman who was completely opposite of me in that area. So when I ask her what she thinks, I really get the truth.
Yeah, sounds like it. Well, let's dive in, because I really want to, first of all, just get a picture of the misunderstood man. What does this mean? What does this look like? Share this with us.
Well, being from New York and being Italian American, we men are looked at as closed, dark characters who would rather not talk about anything. We don't show our emotions. It's very hard to get inside of us and for us to open up. Yes. So that's only, and really because we behave like that and we look like that. And as a culture, when we get together as a group, there's all kinds of different barriers to entry, not only for the outsiders, but for our women and or partners. Yeah. And so right away we begin as people who are seen as difficult to get to, hard to love, and hard to be loved. So we take pride in not communicating, not opening up, not trusting other people. And so this is the stereotype. Mm-hmm. And I remember being brought up as a young kid. I'm the youngest of 3 kids. My dad said to me as a young kid, he said, son, never trust anybody. And never tell anybody your business, especially a woman, especially not your wife.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I was brought up with, I was thinking, wow, it's a bad thing to tell people, what I feel and my secrets. And so, because he was brought up, not being able to trust, and it was his story. Mm-hmm. in my story, but I idolized him. So I believed that. And through doing this work, I found out that a lot of other men have had the same story. It's generational and certainly it's regional and cultural. But I was brought up in New York as an Italian man, which is we're one of the most closed groups out there.
Mm-hmm.
So as I've begun to do this work and take this journey, which has been a global journey, I'm really realizing that men around the world are known for this kind of thing. And so nothing could be further from the truth. But what it takes the right person, the right environment, the right partnership, and to build trust and a foundation to get us to open up and to really become who we are, the unfolding, as we say.
Oh, the unfolding. That's beautiful. And you said something that I'm really I've been holding on to ever since you said it, which is one of the misconceptions being that you are hard to love and it's hard to be loved. And I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit more about that, because I think it's important for our women to hear, like, what does that mean when we're coming into this relationship with someone who supposedly it's hard to love, right?
Well, I think that the thing that is attractive about men in general, but certainly men like this, is that when a man is very quiet or a man is very dark, in the beginning, it's very exciting. It's romantic. It's almost mysterious, and it's almost a challenge to a lot of ladies when they meet a guy like that. They want to try to be the one who gets to him. They want to be the one who breaks through. Mm-hmm. Well, I can open him up. He's going to be like butter in my hands. And so a lot of times what happens is in the beginning of the relationship, certainly when we meet people, even if it's on the first date, we bring our highlight reel with us. So maybe we will open up. Maybe we'll talk. A lot of times we'll make stuff up. So if we're on a first date, we might just say, our career is better than it is, or our family life is very functional and everybody's happy and everything's going well. And certainly I don't have any issues. I have no flaws on the first date. And so very often the same thing can happen with our partner. Mm-hmm. And then we go down the road a bit and maybe we get engaged or married or have some kind of committed relationship. And then when times get tough and challenges come, that's when we really tuck and we have to defend. And, sometimes we get a provide and protect mentality. And certainly the traditional man, listen, I'm going to be the king. I'm going to protect my kingdom. And so we take on these roles and we have models from the past, which we may have seen. Maybe our dads were quiet. Maybe they were very strict. Maybe they were, very stern and hard to break into. Yeah. So we think that maybe if we don't let people in, we can protect and we'll be able to survive. So we go into a survival mode. And so that's what makes it look like we're hard to love. Mm-hmm. Now, I know in my own life, even when I've been like that out in the work world, when I came home, I had this special space and this woman who would really be able to open me up. And, one of the things that she did was she listened to me. So she let me talk about everything that was going on in my life, really from the road. So when we met, I was a salesman on the road. So I would talk to her during the day, and it began this journey and the building of a foundation built on open communication. So I needed to tell her what was going on in order for her to support me and help me to feel loved. And then, I was always a very loving person anyway.
Got it. And I'm wondering too, for those that are listening, for our women audience members, Rick, can you talk a little bit about what happens to a man when they feel constantly misunderstood? What happens for them?
Well, one of the things that occurs in a relationship is that when we start out together, and it's during the courtship and or the honeymoon period, we really are the number one thing in that other person's life, at least for a time. Mm-hmm. And we're certainly leading up to marriage, as you may know, and people who are listening may know. It's just about the couple. The couple is everything. It's just, we're just grooving it. It's like me and you, baby, honey, all this stuff. And then things like marriage and that commitment can sometimes be really big. Living together for the first time and getting to know somebody gets really big. Forget about children. When children enter, especially for men, in my case, I can tell you when my first son was born, for the first year, I felt like I didn't even exist. I felt like I was not, I was just like, I went from the number one priority to, maybe number 4 or 5. I was after other things. I didn't even come in third.
Oh, God.
So what we do is we retreat at that point. We men retreat. And then, so these are things to look out for. Now, everybody warns you. You say, listen, be careful when you get married, when you get a house, when you have expenses, when you start managing money together, when you have kids.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't really know this stuff until you get into it.
Right.
And I've managed to live by, a simple rule. I say source, self, spouse, and suspect. I call it the 4 S's. But what I do is I maintain my connection to source, whatever you want to call that, universal, divine, God, energy, whatever you want to call it. And then self, maintain my connection to myself. And then my spouse. And I try to keep those things in order. And then suspect is where my money comes from, my career, my clients, my kids, my family, my outside things. So I use this little system to keep things in priority. So it's source, self, spouse. So, and if my wife does the same thing, and for those of you listening, if you maintain that same order, you're going to find you have a lot more energy. You're not as stressed out by these other things, and you can keep the commitments and stay in touch with your partner, husband, lover, whatever it is. And so you can love easier and be loved easier.
Wow. I'm really, really digging the 4 S's. I like that. I like having a nice kind of structure, right? And especially if the two of you are on the same page, there's not that miscommunication. That's not, why am I not number one? It's like, well, we have we have the structure.
Well, if you think about it, a lot of times when a woman has a child, that child is the only thing that exists anymore for her. She actually even lets go of herself to give everything to this child. And I can tell you from experience, my wife is 54. We're going to be married 28 years. We're together almost 30. I have a 22 and 16-year-old son. And those boys are still her biggest priority. So she needs to remind herself of this order all the time. It's a lot easier for men typically to keep that order. A lot of times what men will do is men will put their job ahead of their spouse or themselves. We think, well, now that she has this to do, I'll go out and make money, or I'll keep myself busy with some other things. It could be extracurricular activities, could be even destructive behaviors in response to, this upheaval of our system. But what I will do is I will go out there and keep myself reminded of it, and then try to remind her of it. Listen, it's hard for a woman to say, okay, I'm a woman first, and then I'm a wife, and then I'm a mother.
Yeah.
Usually you get it flipped. So mother comes first, and that takes a lot of energy, and it doesn't always recharge you right away.
Right. Right. And I want to go back to something that you talked about earlier too, about like this unfolding that happens, right? And that you have a relationship with your wife, especially early on, where you went out and you worked and you did your thing, and then you came home and you were able to kind of open up, and that unfolding happened. And I'm wondering if you can share with our audience, what are ways that we can kind of cultivate that unfolding or that opening up process with our partners?
I'm going to tell you 2 stories.
Okay.
The first one is that when I met my wife and I started dating her, I really found her to be so unique, so warm, so compassionate, caring. She was like the whole package. When I met her, I was just blown away. So before the first date, I said, I really want this to go well. So I was doing my best to get prepared, and it was a blizzard.
Oh my gosh.
So we couldn't get together. So I am a very impulsive, instant gratification type of guy. I called, I said, oh my God, I want to get to you somehow. She said, well, it's no big deal. We'll just reschedule. No, you don't understand. We got to go out tonight. And she said, well, it's a blizzard. We can't go out tonight. Okay. So disappointed. I make another date. A couple days later, another blizzard.
Oh my gosh.
get thrown out for a second time. I said, listen, I'm going to borrow my friend's Jeep. I'm going to drive to you. I'll go in the snow. And it was like, National Weather Service type of reports. No, don't drive. Okay. She says, no, we'll just get together another time. So I'm feeling this slipping away. I'm thinking, this is the woman of my dreams, and it's not going to work. So we make a third date, and we make it to the date, and the date goes great. I was waiting. I think it took over a week to get this date, underway. So I was so impatient. We get to the date. I said to myself after the date, and I said, God, I will do anything to get a second date with this woman. Please just let me get a second date. So I get a second date. We have a terrific time. And I said, please, God, let me get a third date with this woman. I'm telling you, please, I will do anything. Just let me get another date with this woman. Get a third date. Same thing. Please, God, let me get a fourth date. It's now almost 30 years later. And every day I just say, please, God, let me get another date with this woman. Tonight, let me go out with her again tonight. Let her say yes. I'll do anything. And so I've managed to maintain this mindset of, I'm dating this woman. So I got to be in that mindset. I got to be on my best behavior. I got to be on my tiptoes. I'm so grateful that I found a woman like this. So what this did in turn is it turned on some kind of magical energy. She was feeling that I was really trying hard. Now, have I failed? Have I made mistakes? Have I been a disaster as a husband over 30 years? Of course I have. But I always do the same thing every day. I hope she goes out with me tonight. That's the first story. Second story is on December 10th of 1997, I left a lucrative job on Wall Street. I had a mortgage, 2 car loans, a baby at 3 years old, and my wife home not working. I leave the job and I come home and I basically quit my job without a job. So sole income is gone.
Yeah.
And remember, my wife is the security-minded money person. So I take a train home. I go up to the front door. I got all my stuff. I ring the bell. There's my wife and my 3-year-old son. Open the door, holding up a big sign. Welcome home, Daddy. We know you're going to be great. We love you. Oh. She's unconditionally supportive. She never said anything about money or quitting the job. So if you're listening out there today, you want to know how to create a relationship where you can open up and really have a great guy who might be misunderstood, support him unconditionally. And guys, if you're listening, it goes the same for you and your wife. So I have lived in an environment of unconditional support. And I have to tell you, Robyn, I think you know this about me because we have common friends. I have come up with some crazy ideas, some crazy schemes. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an online business person. I'm a coach. I am coming up. It's an idea a day, at least, maybe some days 10. And I wake up every day, honey, listen to this. Here's how I'm going to change the world today. And she says, that's great, honey. Go and do it. You're going to be amazing.
Yes. I so appreciate this. I too am married to an entrepreneur, and I've learned over the years, he's had to teach me too, which is just get excited when I get excited. Just support. And so I love that you're reminding all of us of just say, this is awesome. Yeah. And be that supportive, the unconditional love.
Yeah. And I have to tell you that it forms an accountability when somebody is supportive of you. I mean, think back to your teachers and coaches and mentors in life. When somebody believes in us, we really do, not only consciously, but subconsciously, we don't want to let that person down because there are so few people like that in the world today. Yeah. We don't just have people saying, oh, you can do it. Yo, your boss, oh yeah, you're going to be great. You're going to take my job someday. You're going to be the CEO. No, you're always being kept down by the world today. So, authority figures will tell you, no, you can't do that. That's not how we do it. It's not the program. Or you're a guy, or you're a girl. Guys don't do that, or girls don't do that, or men don't do that, or act your age. And behave yourself. My grandmother used to say, children should be seen and not heard.
Yeah.
Thank God I never listened to her. I was the grandchild who was always heard and never seen.
Rick, for the men that may be listening to this, or the women who want to share this with their men, it sounds like being heard and understood and supported is so important. It's a huge piece of this connection. What are some things that they can start doing to really, again, cultivate, just an environment where they are easily heard and more understood?
Well, in all my work, you'll see that there's a thread that runs through it that I say we should uncover, cultivate, and then celebrate the gifts in ourselves and others. And so one of the things that we do as children, when we play and when we do art and when we hang out in little groups and when we go to school, is that we explore and we begin to see, this kid's good at kickball. This kid's good at art. This kid can dance. This kid can sing. This kid is very obedient. This kid is super active. This one rebels all the time. This one stays in place. So these things are actually gifts. And so what happens is, because of our stories and because of our upbringing and, things like parenting, teachers, clergy, community, we start to be told that these things are not so good. And think about stories. The kid who's too active is hyperactive. The kid who sits still is never going to do anything. The one who does art can't make a living with it. The one who, is too rough is going to be in trouble all the time. So, but these things are really gifts. Who are our greatest artists and our greatest writers and singers and theatrics? And what about our construction people? And what about our people who are athletes? And what about the ones who are, arguing in a courtroom and they're terrific prosecutors and lawyers? And so all of these things that we can think of that were gifts when we were 5, somehow when we get to be 20 or 30 or 40, all of a sudden these are negatives. And I say, these are our gifts. So all of the things that we uncover and cultivate, we can then celebrate. So bottom line, look for the things in your partner that you may have thought growing up are negatives, and you can turn them into a positive. I can tell you that I was that kid who was running around with his head cut off. I would have been given Ritalin if I was in the age group. I'm too old, so I narrowly missed being medicated as a kid. And now I change the world with my excitement and my enthusiasm and my reckless abandon. So I'm jumping off of everything I can find. I climb up to the nearest peak just so I can jump off it and see what happens. Yeah. So we have to, so to answer your question, find out what's good about you and or your partner. And even if you think it's a negative, flip it. I guarantee you, if you talk to me 5 minutes, you tell me everything that's wrong with you or your partner, I'll turn it into a gift.
And then it sounds like you also guide people to learn how to cultivate and then celebrate that.
Yeah, 100%. And I only because I did it in my own life. And I was lucky enough to have great people around me who said, you are so special. You are so amazing. You are going to, my father said as a young kid, when I used to answer back, he used to tell me, get in line, stop. He was, excuse me, a super disciplinarian. So if I acted up for a bit, he'd be like pouncing on me.
Yeah.
And so when I used to answer back, because I would never give him the last word, I would always say something back to him. And he was amazed at it. And instead of being angry, he used to say to me, someday you're going to make a living with that mouth, kid.
Wow.
And so he said, he enjoyed that about me. He knew that I had this spirit. Yeah. And so instead of breaking it, he nourished it. And, he encouraged me. He also told me that I could do anything that I wanted to do in the world.
And that right there is powerful. And that's something that not enough people say and not enough people hear. So I'm so glad. Again, all these reminders, you have such just pearls of wisdom for all of us. And, Rick, for those that are listening today and watching, if they take nothing else away from our talk today and loving, your man who's feeling misunderstood, what do you want people to take away from today?
I would say open arms, open doors. So if we live like this, I know you can't see it, but if we just open our arms and leave them open, so that means not only to ourselves and to whatever we want to bring in, but to our spouses, to our partners, to our significant other, our husbands and wives. Open your arms to these people. This is where everybody wants to be. They always want to be in an emotional or a physical hug. Yeah. And so open arms, open doors. When I opened my arms to life and to everything that was there for me. That means the dark and the light, people. It doesn't mean every day is going to be perfect.
Right.
It means that the way you see those dark days is going to be so much brighter than it used to be. And then they're shorter also. So open arms, open doors.
Wow. I love that. I love that. Thank you. You know, I know you and I had talked, and you have something that you wanted to share with everyone just for joining us today. Why don't you share with them what that is?
Well, my second book is, it's a labor of love. It's called Uncovering the Hidden Currency of Marriage. And when I decided to share this theory and this process, it's what we talked about. I thought that the secret to being a successful man and a successful husband, and obviously if you're in a same-sex relationship, of course, your partner, is to uncover the gifts in your wife. I found far too many men were taking their wives for granted, no matter what their wives were doing. If their wives were business executives and super successful in whatever, we still didn't really explore the gifts in that woman. Mm-hmm. So this book, Uncovering the Hidden Currency of Marriage, is all about finding the gold, thus the currency, in your woman, and how that can be translated to gold in every other area of your life. Build a successful marriage, and you'll have a successful family, and then you will have a successful business. And I studied thousands of people over my entire life, and all the people who did this, and they really did it consciously. They just didn't make it look good on the outside. Forget the highlight reel. We're talking real world stuff, that in their living rooms and their dining rooms and bedrooms, they were consciously looking for the good in their partner every day. They were never dwelling on the negative. We all have flaws. Yeah. They're not important. Forget that. Just focus on the gold, and it will spill over into every other area of your life. So I'm giving everyone a free copy of that book.
Oh my goodness. So generous. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, wow. And for those who may, want to work with you, find out more about you, learn, you have something called the Marriage Lab, right?
Yep. The Marriage Lab is something that my dog Jack and I conceived of. Jack is a chocolate lab, so he's a Labrador retriever. He's 12 years old. And so after observing my wife Carol and I for the past 12 years, he came up with a lot of tips and tricks that he thought could help other men stay out of the doghouse.
Love it.
So we developed the Marriage Lab. So it's not only a lab, the dog, but it's a laboratory for building a better marriage and a family and business that matters. And you can find it at marriagelab.us, and you may put the link in the show notes.
Yep.
And that's a community of good men. What I want to do basically is help 1,000 hero husbands recommit to their marriage in the next 12 months.
Awesome.
And so I'd love it if you joined me in that community. It's fabulous. It's a place where good men can go to get more information, more education, more inspiration, and join with others who may be misunderstood. And because we really know we want the same things as our women. And if you want to connect with me, you can connect with me there, or you can go to themarriageboss.com and you'll find all my goodies. And the site is just packed full of everything from a podcast to resources and tons of free stuff and just lots of great content. And, I can't say enough about that site. So
yes, I know. Me too. I've been there. You have so many resources on there that I've signed up for. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really great. And I've shared with my husband. So everyone check out the website, check out all these resources. Again, Rick, thank you so much for being here and sharing all of your wisdom with all of us.
Robyn, thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor, and I'm so excited to be in your community also.
Yay. And thank you guys so much for joining us and really truly learning how to love your misunderstood man, how to really cultivate and create these relationships that last. And keep an eye on your inbox. You're going to be receiving another great interview tomorrow. I'm your host, Robyn D'Angelo, and take care. Bye-bye.